Okay, let me share a couple of PowerPoint tips and tricks that you probably didn't know. Let's start with a simple slide makeover. This could be a typical business slide, lots of content, bullet points only. Let me show you how you can approach a slide like this. So first start with thinking about your key messages and highlight those in each and one of these bullet points. Then you drop the rest of the text to your speaker notes. That's really why you're there as a speaker, to fill in the blanks. And now when we have key points or 4 key points, we can move on to play with the layout and structure it differently. So here you can see we place them into circles. We can take a minute, find some nice icons, and restructure the layout a bit. If we want, we can also go ahead and remove the template stuff we have going on here in the background. So let's keep it clean and nice. We can also bring in some descriptive text if we need some backup to our key points. And here you see a very clean and nice slide. If you want, you can also incorporate an image and restructure the layout again like this. So here you have 2 options. You can see the before and after, and I think it's very clear which one is more impactful. Okay, let's take a look at how we can align elements quicker in PowerPoint. Let's imagine you have a slide like this with 4 elements. If you were going to align these now, you could probably use the PowerPoint alignment tool. So you see these red guides here, and you can try to align them properly by using these. It's not very simple. It takes a while, and at the end, it probably looks something like this anyway. So let me show you a quicker way to do this. Simply highlight all of your elements on the slide, go to shape format at the top here. Then under align, you have a couple of options here. You can go ahead and use align middle, which will align all objects on a straight line in the middle. And then you choose distribute horizontally. And you see with 2 or 3 clicks, you can quickly get perfectly aligned elements. Now, if you want to align them on the slide as well, you can go ahead and highlight them again, right click and group them. And now we just repeat the same steps. So shape format, align center, align middle, and here we have 4 circles perfectly aligned and perfectly positioned on the slide. Let me show you the top keyboard shortcuts that I recommend to speed up your workflow. These 3 are probably the best ones. Control G, it groups the selected objects, and I'm going to show you in a second why that matters. Shift plus mouse key keeps the proportions of a shape or an image. And Control D, it's a great way to duplicate items. Let me show you why. So let's start with Control G. Here you can see we have a circle, we have an icon inside it, and then we have a text box under it. Everything is perfectly aligned here. And whenever you have something like this with different objects, I would recommend that you group them. And the reason is because you don't want to send this to a team member, they try to edit the text or whatever, and you get it back like this. So simple, highlight the shape here with the icon, press Ctrl G, so it becomes one object. If you want to secure the text box as well, you can highlight this too and press Ctrl G again, and then you've made this whole thing a group instead of individual objects. And you could do the same here. Control G and Control G. What I'm doing here is the same as right clicking and pressing group or ungroup. It's the same, we're just using the shortcut, which is much quicker, right? And in this case, it becomes much easier to manage. Shift plus left mouse key. Let's say you want to create a perfect circle. You don't need to try to guess what that is. Just try to hold down the shift key on your keyboard and then you drag out with your mouse. And you see that you get a perfectly proportional shape. You want a perfect square, hold down shift key, drag out with your mouse, and you can see how this works. Same goes with images. Please don't stretch images like this. This is not nice. Instead, hold down the shift key and drag out with your mouse, and you can see that we keep the proportions perfectly intact. Okay, Control D. This is my favorite and I use it all the time. Let's say you want to create three objects across your slide, very similar to this slide here. What do you normally do? You right click, press copy, then you have to press paste. I don't even know how to do this. You have to press paste, or you can use your keyboards, Control C, Control V, and you have to try to align them yourself, and it just takes forever. Try using the Control D format instead. So you place your object where you want it. I'm going to place it in the middle of my slide here. Then I press Control D as in duplicate. I move my circle to exactly where I want it. I'm going to keep it aligned with the other one, and I let go. Now is where the magic starts. I keep pressing Control D, and you can see that PowerPoint remembers the path between each object, and it keeps everything intact. So this is really useful for when you want to quickly create perfectly aligned objects. So for example, let's say we want 4 columns. We create one, we press Control D as in duplicate, we place the object where we want it, and we press Control D again until we're happy. And you can see that the space between each and one of these is exactly the same. Let's do one more example. It's really powerful. So let's say I want to create a grid layout. I press Control D. I keep pressing Control D. I can do it like this. I'm going to press Control G to group it. And I'm going to align it in the middle here so you can see how good this is. And if you want, you don't even need to introduce text boxes. You can add your text directly inside each shape here. You can just start typing and you will quickly have a perfectly aligned grid shape format thing, whatever you call it. The quick access toolbar. This is an amazing function that should be used much more in PowerPoint. Basically, it's this toolbar you see right here below my main menu. This is the quick access toolbar, and it can really help you speed up your workflow. So you remember I showed you, for example, these 4 circles that were misaligned and we wanted to align them. So before we had to highlight all, go to shape format, align, and we had to use this menu. It would be probably 4 or 5 or 6 clicks, which is fine. But if it can be done quicker, why not use that? So I've aligned, or I should say, I've added the align functions to my quick access toolbar here. So you can see this button here, it says align objects middle. I can click this, and then I can click this one, which says distribute horizontally, and it does the exact same thing in 2 clicks instead. It's quite amazing. And what other things you see here, I've added insert text box here. So instead of going to insert and then text box, where are you? There you are. I've added this here just to save 1 click. I've done the same with insert shapes and insert images and all of that. So it's really useful to use the quick access toolbar. And the same goes with, for example, slide master view. How often do we want to go to the slide master and we don't know where it is? So I've added this button here and I can go there directly. And the way you can customize your own quick access toolbar is by right-clicking the main menu and go to customize quick access toolbar. Here, what you'll see is all the different function. Right now we're under popular commands. You can choose all commands as well if you want. And you see all the different functions here in PowerPoint. You can click on one and add it to your own customized quick access toolbar. So you can create your own. If you don't know how to create one or you're not keen on doing it, you can also import someone else's. So I could literally export my own toolbar and send it to you, and you could import the same toolbar into your PowerPoint. You do it once, then you have all your tools and functions here close to hand. Okay, let me show you a quick bullet point magic trick. I'm going to show you how you can go from a bullet point list like this to something like this in a couple of seconds, in a few clicks, basically. So if you have your key points in a text box like this, you just highlight the text box with 1 click. You're under the home menu, which is the starting point. And then you go to convert to smart art. And under here, you have different preset templates that you can pick from. So with a simple click, you can turn your bullet points to something like this instead. And once you're at this stage, you can go ahead, you can play with the colors, you can choose something that works for you, you can change the text, and so forth. Let's try it again. So we click once here, twice here, and then we choose a layout. And if we want, we can go ahead and find some new colors. We can add some visuals here. Let's see if this loads. There we go. And then we can type in our key points. Here we probably need to change the color to something dark so it has more contrast, but you get the idea. And this little trick is very useful for when you're in a rush and maybe you have some bullet points and you're not sure how you should visualize it. Then you can quickly create something nice like this, and you can really customize it as you wish so it supports your message. Try it out. There is also a hidden magic trick you can use on images, which works very well. So, for example, imagine you have three images like this. You can see they're all different sizes and formats. One is landscape, one is portrait. So, let's go ahead and highlight all of these. Then we go to picture format. And under here, we have something called picture layout. And again, very similar to the bullet point magic trick, you can see that we have different options here with preset templates. So with one click of a button, you can turn your images to perfectly resized and placed layouts like this. And then you can type in your text as you wish, it resizes automatically, and you can get a clean and nice layout in a couple of seconds. This is really powerful. So again, I'm going to press Ctrl A to highlight all of my images. I go to picture format, picture layout, and let's see if we find something that works nice here. So for example, we could use something like this. If I don't want these text boxes here, there is an option up here under the Smart Art Design where it says Convert, where you can convert it to shapes. What that means is that it converts this design into a shape. So if I ungroup it, now we have an image and a shape, and I can simply delete the shapes. And in a couple of seconds, again, it cropped my images, it placed them perfectly on the slide, and I can resize, I can restructure it as I wish. So this is really powerful. Try it out. Let me know what you think. Let me give you some advice on how to work with images. First, let's look at some good image layouts. Usually when we work with slides, we tend to put our images wherever we see fit, and they're usually just floating around on the slide like this. Instead, try this technique. Try to make your image touch at least 3 sides of the slide. So you can see here it's touching the top and bottom and the right side. And this gives a much more structured and clean look, something like we tend to see on websites and magazines, right? And this gives you some room to play with your content on the white space here. You can also use the horizontal width of the slide like this and decide if you want more emphasis on your image or on your bullet points. You can also go ahead and use a full screen image if you want to make a strong statement or as a section break or similar. So how do we actually place text on images? Well, if you have lots of white space, like in this image and this one, you can place the text directly in that space and it's fully readable. Now, if we place the text in the middle of this image, it's not really readable. Same goes with this image. And the technique here is to try to place a shape behind the text instead. And this is as simple as simply inserting a rectangular shape, place it on top of the text, and then you send it backwards. So the text comes on top, and then you adjust the colors based on your needs. So if you have a darker background or darker color on the shape, you use a white shade of color on the text. Okay, sometimes we want to make the whole image darker. So how can we do this so the text becomes readable like this? Well, you use the same technique I just showed you. Place a rectangle on top of the whole image or the whole slide. You send it backwards. And then we go to format shape and we pick a color. So I'm going to go with black and I play with the transparency here. So I'm using this handle and I will make it as transparent as possible, but without losing readability of the text. Another way which is much quicker, but sometimes it might not work depending on the image. You can click on the image, go to picture format, and under corrections, you have different preset options where they drop the contrast or the brightness, and you can see if any of these work for you. And you can decide which one looks best and go with that. Now, how do we choose good images? So the first thing I would say is that you should try to avoid, or actually let's just avoid clip art images and bad stock photos like these. They are overused, they tend to be in the top of the Google results, and they're not really good for your presentation. It's hard to identify with those images. Instead, try to use high resolution, natural shots like these ones. And you can find these on free resource websites that I will share with you in a minute. So imagine we're going to create a slide with this message. We adapt to you. Our company adapt to your needs. What image can we use for this message? Well, we can go with this typical stock photo of two puzzle pieces coming together. This works fine. Is it overused? I would say yes, but it still gets the message across. You can also choose an office setting to reflect your office and your environment, a generic shot like this. Or you can get more creative and use, for example, an image of a chameleon to show how it adapts to different scenarios. It all depends on your audience and how you want to go about it. So speaking of free image resources, here are some websites that I recommend where you can find great photos and great icons to use. Unsplash and Pexels are the top ones. They are really good. Check them out. When it comes to icons, you might need to give attribution to the author unless you pay for the subscription.